Ah, yes, engage. And this is the part I think that makes a lot of people nervous, right? This is where you have to handle those objections.
Yeah, objections, they can feel a bit like a dance sometimes, can't they?
A little bit. You never really know which way it's going to go.
Right. But mindset and methodology, it actually emphasizes that objections aren't roadblocks, they're opportunities.
Ooh, okay.
Because usually an objection is really just a request for a little more information, maybe some clarification.
So it's about listening to that objection, really understanding where it's coming from, and then addressing it authentically.
Exactly. You got it. In fact, the book talks about this technique called a trial close. Have you heard of that?
I don't think so. What is that?
So with the trial close, you're basically gauging the temperature of the conversation,
Right.
but you're not directly asking for the sale.
Oh,
So instead of saying something like, are you ready to buy? Which can feel a little high pressure.
right.
You might say something like, so how does all of this sound so far? Or does this seem like it would address your needs based on what we've discussed?
It's a softer approach. It's less about closing the deal and more about checking in, making sure you're both on the same page.
You got it. It's about building that collaborative relationship. And speaking of building relationships, we can't forget the final E in C.A.R.E, which is expectations.
Right. And this feels especially important today in a world where, we're constantly being bombarded with marketing messages, promises that don't always pan out.
Absolutely. Setting those clear expectations right from the start. It's crucial. It's about being upfront and transparent to avoid any misunderstandings down the line and to build that trust, which is paramount.
Absolutely. It's about under-promising and over-delivering. Okay, so we've covered a lot here, shifting our mindset, being authentic, building those genuine relationships, and we really unpacked each stage of the C.A.R.E. methodology. But before we wrap up, I want to hear your thoughts on something. This whole approach to ethical selling, it seems like it goes way beyond just closing deals, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. This whole philosophy, really.
Yeah, like a blueprint for building those stronger relationships in all areas of life, not just in sales.
100%. It's about showing up authentically, listening deeply, genuinely wanting to help others. That's something we could all use a little more of, right?
100%. It's funny, right? We tend to think of sales as this separate thing. Like it's some skill set that only certain people have.
Yeah, like it's some secret society or something.
Right. Only certain people can unlock the secrets. But when you really break down this idea of ethical selling, it seems like it's mostly about those core human skills. Stuff we can all work on.
Totally. It comes down to connecting with people, understanding them, finding ways to help each other out. It's not rocket science.
Exactly. And we're doing it all the time, whether we realize it or not, right? Convincing a friend to try a new restaurant, getting your team on board with an idea at work, heck, even explaining your point of view to your partner. It's all kind of like selling in a way.
It totally is. It's just that we don't usually think of it that way. We've got this negative connotation with the word selling, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Right. It's how we get our ideas across, how we build relationships. And the C.A.R.E. methodology, I don't know, it kind of gives us this framework to approach those everyday interactions too, with more like intention,
Yeah.
more empathy.
I love that because at the end of the day, it's about approaching those interactions with authenticity, right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to force something that's not there.
100%. So much better than those pushy tactics. But speaking of pushy, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier. Setting clear expectations. I feel like this is even more important these days when it's so easy to overpromise and underdeliver.
You said it. I mean, nothing erodes trust faster than unmet expectations, right? That goes for personal relationships, work relationships,
Yeah?
everything.
Oh, it's the worst. That contractor who blows way past your budget, that friend who always flakes on plans, it just leaves you feeling so frustrated. So how do we make sure we're setting those realistic expectations from the beginning in a sales context? I feel like a lot of it goes back to that assess phase.
100%. It starts with truly listening,
Mm.
understanding your customer's priorities, what success actually looks like for them, not just what you think it should be.
Right. And being honest about what you can actually deliver.
Yeah.
By when.
Yes. And you know what? Sometimes being ethical means knowing when to say no.
Ooh, that's a hard one.
It is. But sometimes it's better to be upfront about your limitations rather than overpromising and then letting someone down.
Yeah.
That just backfires in the long run.
Totally agree. It's about being honest and transparent every step of the way. Which I guess is really what ethical selling is all about, isn't it? It's not just about what you do, but also what you don't do. Like you resist using those sleazy, pushy tactics, even when you really want to close that deal.
It takes discipline, but, a short-term win. It's just not worth sacrificing your integrity
Hmm.
or your customers' trust.
So well said. This whole conversation has been so insightful. I feel like I have this whole new outlook on approaching not just sales, but relationships in general, with more intention, more heart. It's pretty awesome.
I'm so glad to hear that. And hey, remember, this C.A.R.E. methodology is a framework, not a rule book. Take these principles, play around with them a bit, figure out what feels right for you and how you like to connect with people.
Great advice. Well, we've only just scratched the surface of this whole ethical selling thing. It's a big topic. But
Well,
sadly, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. For our listeners, though, I cannot recommend selling ethically the C.A.R.E. methodology enough. It's jam-packed with even more great insights and practical advice to totally transform your approach to sales and life.
totally agree. Check it out.
And as you go about your day, here's something to think about. How can you bring these principles of ethical selling, that intention, authenticity, that genuine desire to connect into your own interactions? Because at the end of the day, aren't we all selling something, an idea, a vision, ourselves even?
Love that.
So why not do it ethically?
Here, here. Let's make the world a little kinder, a little more human, one authentic interaction at a time.
Couldn't agree more.